Okay, welcome to the second part of the lecture. And the second part of the lecture deals with the government and politics of Singapore. Singapore is actually, you can say, there is one party which is controlling the political affairs since independence from the Brits and from the colonial rule of the Brits. And since then, this particular party is, winning most of the seats, and they are controlling things. In 2011, opposition parties claimed their most successful results in history, taking only six of the parliament's 87 elected seats and garnering about 40% of the popular votes. So this is the importance of political parties in Singapore, that only one party, which is a state party, is um, controlling things. Though this still left the PAP with an overwhelming majority in parliament. The ruling party described the election as a watershed moment for Singapore and vowed to reform the party to respond to the public's concern. So, this particular party, which is also called, People's Action Party, uh, the PAP has won every general election since the end of the colonial era in 1959, aided by fragmented popular opposition, because the opposition is not united, I would say. And secondly, the Singapore's economic success under People's Action Party is also one of the things which has contributed to their success. So this is the reason that PAP, which is People's Action Party, is actually controlling things. Politically, they are dominant and they are winning most of the elections. In 2011, they won more majority seats, and 2020 again, they garnered most of the seats. So the Workers' Party is the leading opposition party right now in Singapore, and the Worker Party took about 10 of the 93 parliamentary seats in 2020 elections, while the PAP won the other 83 seats. Another new party, opposition party, the Progress Singapore Party, obtained only two seats in 2020 elections. So primarily, the most of the seats are again won by PAP, which is very important political party, and they are dominating the politics in Singapore. And why they are winning these elections? Because of their success rate, because of their corruption-free government, because of their good policies, their foreign policy and defense policy and economic policy, the internal policies. So because of their success, and because of the development of Singapore, the people are not, giving votes for other parties. So primarily, they are giving, votes to PAP, and so they can continue their policies. Singapore's parliamentary style government is headed by the Prime Minister and Cabinet. So primarily, Prime Minister is the person who is controlling things. He is the chief executive and who represents the majority party in the parliament. The president serves as a ceremonial head of the state, just like Pakistan, and the president is, just a ceremonial head. He is the prime minister of Singapore since 2004, and he is actually the son of former prime minister who stepped down in 1990 after 31 years of the government. The senior Lee, 89, and widely acknowledged as the architect of Singapore's success as a nation, resigned his post as minister mentor. So basically, his father, he was a very successful politician, and under his legacy, Singapore actually developed, and they achieved their, global status. Halima binte Yaqub, first president of Singapore, and she is Muslim, of course, and she is very, very influential politician as well. So she is now the prime president of Singapore. Let's quickly now look at the defense policy of Singapore. And if you look at the defense policy of Singapore, as I told you before, it's a small country with small population. So obviously their army would be, their military would be a small military. So since they are not fearing any sort of issues, they are not having any sort of issues with the regional powers and the global powers. So they are a very peaceful nation, and but still they possess a military force just for maritime security, so they can patrol, protect their maritime interest in and around their country. So they have got army, navy, and air force, very small, and the collective size of their military is about, I think, 72,000. So their 18 to 21 years of age for male is compulsory for military services, and this 2 year conscript service is obligation. Conscription is actually compulsory for the people of that particular country which have got very small population. So the state has made it compulsory that the male population has to serve for 2 years in the military services. So this is also the case in Singapore, because they have got a very small population, and obviously they have introduced this particular conscription in that country. Israel is also following the same conscription. So now, if you look at their military, 72,000 active personnel are there, and then you got 1.3 million reserve personnel who could be called in an emergency. But this country is a very peaceful state, and they don't have any regional or global issues. If you look at the defense budget, it is almost equal to Pakistan, but their economy is quite good, and they can afford this budget. So with a very small population, they have a small military, 72,000, they have got $10 billion of budget, and Pakistan with 600 and about 900,000 troops, we have got a budget of about $11 billion. So, but our economy is very small and suffering, so we cannot afford bigger budgets. Let's now understand their defense policy. Their defense policy revolve around deterrence and diplomacy, and they believe that they have to deter and diplomatically engage their enemies. So these are the fundamental tenets of Singapore's military defense policy. Through the years, military has developed extensive links with armed forces from other countries like United States of America. Both countries, they share expertise, they carry out joint exercises also. They are also having good ties with the Chinese military, Russians, and other major powers like India, for example. So this is the reason that this particular country is not fearing any threat or intimidation from other power, because they are in good ties with major powers like United States of America, India, Russia, and of course China, and other regional powers in this particular region, Southeast Asia, like Japan and Malaysia and Indonesia. In recent years, there has also been an increased emphasis on international peacekeeping and relief operations, notably the peacekeeping operations in East Timor and the Persian Gulf, disaster relief in the Indian Ocean earthquake, tsunami 2004-6, and earthquakes in Indonesia. So they have been very active in international peacekeeping, but at the top level, Pakistan is dominating the international peacekeeping efforts, because Pakistan has contributed the most UN, you can say, personnel to UN, military personnel to UN for peacekeeping operations around the globe. So Pakistan plays a very important role, but Singapore is also very active. To achieve this mission, Ministry of Defense will strengthen the military manpower and technological edge of the Singaporean Air Force, and while fostering close relations with friendly countries in the region and beyond through greater dialogue, confidence building, and cooperation. So this is what I told you before, that they are in good ties with America, China, Japan, Indonesia, Malaysia, and of course other major powers in the region, in the Asia Pacific region and beyond Asia Pacific region. Primarily, they are in good ties with the United States of America, which is, of course, the largest military and, of course, the biggest economy in the world. And they are the number one economy, number one military around the globe. So they are in very close ties with United States of America. Singapore is the 17th largest US trading partner with 50 billion in total two-way good trade, and a substantial destination for US foreign direct investment, FDI. So United States of America have always also invested a lot in Singapore, and their bilateral trade is quite good. The In 2005, both states also carried out strategic framework agreement, and they formalized their bilateral security and defense relationship, in which both countries not only shared their expertise in counterterrorism and other things, but both also carried out an agreement in which the United States of America came up with the agreement that places, not bases. Actually, they are not going to make any bases in Southeast Asia, especially in Singapore, but they are going to use their bases for temporary purposes. A concept that allows the US military access to facilities on a rational rotational basis without bringing up sensitive sovereignty issues. So, of course, if Americans got any base in Singapore, automatically it is going to create anxiety in Chinese and other, states in the region. So obviously, the Americans are, going to use their bases for rotational purposes, and just for the security of Strait of Malacca, which is a very important choke point for the US and their allies in and around the region. In 2012, they carried out an agreement which outlined bilateral initiatives to strengthen global cargo security procedures. And they also signed. Singapore was the first Asian power to join the Container Security Initiative. Now, what was Container Security Initiative, or CSI? Container Security Initiative was very important initiative after 9/11, and the United States of America, along with many other powers, they wanted to ensure that every container which is coming to the United States of America is secured, and no, radioactive material like chemicals like WMDs or other uranium, for example, enriched uranium is not transported to or from United States of America. So this was something which was very important. And after 9/11, the Americans, they feared nuclear attacks by the militants, for example, the dirty bomb attacks and other attacks. So they believed that they need to take certain precautionary measures just to prevent militants to acquire these things. And this is the reason that CSI, the Container Security Initiative, was aimed to protect the global supplies of, cargoes. In April 2013, the USS Freedom of US Navy littoral combat ship arrived in Singapore to begin a 10-month deployment in Southeast Asia. So this is a maritime, you can say, prowess or a military strength of the United States of America, and they deployed this in Singapore just for maritime pirate protection against the, pirates in the region, especially around the Strait of Malacca region, which is a very, narrow choke point. So, United States of America is frequently operating in this region, and obviously, you know that I told you before that they are already there in Okinawa, Japan, and China and US. They are in strategic competition over US presence in the region. So, US is trying to cultivate good ties with Southeast Asian countries like Philippines, like Malaysia, like others in the region like Vietnam, but at the same time they are also in good ties with Singapore as well. So in short, let me conclude on this note that Singapore is a very important country in the region, and their location plays a very important role because they are on the mouth of Strait of Malacca, which is a very narrow corridor between Malaysia and Indonesia, and most of the oil supplies and merchant ships, they had to pass through this region, which are bound for the European countries or for the countries like South Korea, Japan, and others. So, and all these countries are obviously the US allies, and these economies are well connected with the US. So anything happens in this region is obviously it is going to impact on the global security or global economic security, I would say. So Singapore holds an important position in the region, but they are not a military power or they don't have any strength to dominate this region. But they are a very peaceful nation and living peacefully in the region, and also contributing a lot in the global UN efforts, peacekeeping efforts, and they are also closely, participating in many efforts in the region and around the region or beyond the region, just for peace and security. So let's conclude on this note. And if you got any question, you can ask now. Thank you very much.